Hello, everybody. This is Dr. Kia Pruitt. It is Tuesday, and they're mowing the lawn here, even in the evening time in Florida. So it is Tuesday, the last day of June, June the 30th, 2026, and the time is maybe about 9 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Check in, let us know where you're hailing from. I don't see anybody checking in yet, so I'll just be patient and let you all know that I appreciate you so much. Please let me know if you can hear me. I appreciate everybody that's in the Soul Tribe for always being so supportive of the show and for always being so supportive of our guests. So, if you joined me on yesterday evening about 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Standard Time, you know we had a special guest on yesterday or last night. I call her Mama Dria. Her name is Dria Millen. Hi, you can hear me good. And she told us a heartbreaking story about what happened to her daughter and her grandchild. And it led us to discuss the issue of mental health and how there are a lot of people in the world, not just America, who are suffering from mental health illnesses and mental health issues. And I think it was like 3.8 billion people in the world suffer from mental health issues. And the leading mental health issues that people suffer from are depression and anxiety. So people have intense feelings of sadness, loneliness, dis, uh, feeling despondent or despondency. People feel like they have no hope, and I'm speaking in generalities, but 3.8 billion people is a lot when you consider that we're approaching what, about 9 billion people in the world. So you have a third of the world population that's suffering from some type of mental illness. So depression is usually intense deep sadness, and when you feel like low moods, sometimes you don't want to get out of bed, sometimes you don't want to eat. Sometimes you eat too much. You can eat too little or too much. You might not want to go about your daily task. And you just feel kind of like despondent, hopeless, helpless. And that's a real issue in America and abroad. Another mental health issue, other than depression, I said, is anxiety, where people feel nervous. They feel like sometimes their body responds to issues by hyperventilating. A lot of times they have what's called panic attacks, where they feel like they can't breathe, or if they're hyperventilating, they'll go through attacks where their heart palpitates a whole lot, and then they feel like they can't breathe at all, and they get a tingling sensation in their hands, and they just feel like they're going to pass out. Those feelings are real. When Mama Dria Million and I were talking last about depression and anxiety, there were a lot of people in the comment section that were expressing feeling those emotions. People were saying that they felt hopeless, and that one of the ways they dealt with hopelessness or feeling like they couldn't get out of bed was just, some people were saying that they were drinking. This one person said, I just drink myself and like to sleep, because drinking numbs the pain. So if you're feeling like you've lost hope, you can't make it, you feel like you want to use some type of coping mechanism like smoking marijuana or doing drugs or smoking cigarettes even, or drinking alcohol, or maybe food is your addiction and you're just eating because you're stressed out, then these are signs that you may be depressed or having anxiety attacks. You might be anxious. And I would caution you, as we did last night, to talk to somebody. So many people are suffering in silence. Talk to somebody, family. Tell somebody you need help. Okay? Talk to a member, an elder, somebody older than you, a friend. You may talk to, if you're in church, talk to a pastor or an assistant pastor, a minister, just someone who your spirit tells you would have compassion for you. If you're not in church and you're part of a community, tell somebody in your community, in your religious organization or non religious organization, or your non governmental organization, they call them NGOs. Like, for example, if you're a part of any type of society, let somebody know that you feel a certain way. If you don't have anybody you can talk to, then there are crisis hotlines. And I gave that number on the show last night. There, if you feel like there is nobody around and you need to vent, meaning you need to express your emotions, then there are crisis hotlines, and there are great crisis hotlines, because one in three women or girls have been touched. Some statistics say 1 in 3 girls. Some statistics say 1 in 4 girls have been touched by someone that is typically in their family members. 1 in 3 or 4 girls and 1 in 7 boys. So what happens is, if you dealt with any type of issues where you've been raped or touched, then, and you don't tell anybody or you don't deal with them, you might feel like this is my fault. And that, because people will tell you that, oh, it was your fault, or what did you have on, or what did you do, or what did you say to lead to somebody bothering you. So you need to talk to somebody if that has happened to you, because those feelings and emotions will stay with you typically all throughout your life. And we talked about that last night. And while we were talking about that, yes, the world does gaslight mental health issues. I agree. While we were talking about that last night, I noticed that people they were disclosing what they were going through. And we also talked about how Mama Dria's daughter went missing, and they couldn't find her for over a year. In the comment section, there were people going through the same thing, where their children, for whatever reason, left home, and even as adults may have left home or left the family and just kind of went in hiding. And what we discussed in our discovery of what happened in her case and in many other cases is that sometimes our adult children feel like they can't talk to us. They might feel like they're supposed to be able to make it. They might feel like being independent is the way to go. And I shared to her, I said, I think that to a great extent, we may have harmed our girls, especially in an indigenous community, by saying you should be a strong black woman. And, black girl magic can get you through anything, and you're strong and independent. And I said, those type of things, who run the world, girls, who run the world, girls. When Beyonce came out with that song, I was like, I don't know if that's smart. Because what happens is that goes into the consciousness of some of our young people and young women, and they're thinking, okay, I'm invincible. When I was growing up, there was a song, I am strong and I'm invincible. I'm a woman. And whereas I know that we are mentally and emotionally strong and spiritually strong, I think those type of mantras make some women, especially younger women, think that they don't have to call on anybody when they're in trouble. Or maybe they think that they have to prove a point, that they can get by alone. But the truth of the matter is, no man is an island. We all need somebody. So I'm just encouraging you that if you need somebody or you need some help, please tell somebody. It's okay to ask for help. In fact, it's smart to ask for help, because if you don't open up your mouth and say I need something, people will go on about their day like nothing ever happened, or like you don't have an issue, because either they don't know or they think you got it. So ask for help. And if you are a woman and you're independent and you've achieved a lot on your own, be proud of or happy about your accolades, but you still might need help in other areas. Before I get into the show, I'm going to tell you what happened when I was a little younger. Nothing bad, But I was with a group of my girlfriends, and we were celebrating one of our girlfriends' birthdays. It was like a monumental birthday. And we had a big party at her pool house. You know, we had all this food, big barbecue, we had music. It was just a bunch of girls, mostly women, and some people brought their husbands or their boyfriends, but mostly women. And my best friend, who we were celebrating, and had her godson there that was helping the young men were all helping carry the tables and the chairs and the music and all that. And so her godson saw us carrying food, like great big old food trays and chairs and tables. And he was like, "No, God, Mom, and no, Auntie Kia," because they call me Auntie. You don't have to carry those things. We're here, like that's what we're here for. And these are like tall guys, mostly military, because my best friend's son is in the military. So all her godsons are military, and my sons, they carry, and they're hefty young men. And so we're carrying all this stuff, and we get to the door, and then the guys are like, "We got, come on, we can hold this." And at the same time, there must have been about four of us women said, "I got it." One of my sister-in-law, me, my best friend, and all the others, we was like, "Oh, I got it." My sister-in-law turned to us, disgusted, put her hand on her hips, and she said, "You mean to tell me that all these men are here offering help to you, offering to carry the load, carry the pots, the pans, the tables, the chairs, the boom box? You guys, you all are sweating, huffing and puffing, can't carry the stuff, can't open the door, and it's a bunch of you. And you wonder why all of you are single." And we were like, "You wonder why all of you are single? Because you think you got it, and obviously you don't. You're about to drop everything. You can't hardly open the door." This is my sister-in-law. Mind you, she's been married about 30 some years now, but at that point she had been married long, but it wasn't, she was like, I think she might have been one of the only ones. She was the only one of all of us that were holding things. All of us who were holding things were single women. Um, she was the only one married. And she said, "Don't you ever, when there are men around, say I got it. Don't you ever do heavy lifting alone when you don't have to. What is wrong with you women?" Now, this is our peer talking to us like this, our colleague, my sister-in-law, our best friend. And we just kind of like hung our heads, and we were like, "Okay." And we just looked at each other like, gosh, she kind of like cold busted us out in front of everybody. But the young men, military young men, strong young men, were happy that she said that. And they said, "We tried to tell them we got it." And so we just relinquished, the heavy load, and we gave it to them. They just carried, like, where we were struggling with one or two things, they were like carrying like four or five things in their hand. They were just happy to be able to lift this heavy stuff from us, and happy to help a group of women and kick the doors open with their foot. And you know what I'm saying? Like, they were doing stuff that carrying three, four, five times the stuff we had. My point is, even if you can carry a load, if you have someone that you can rely on, or someone nearby, or some resource, or another person, utilize what's available. You don't have to go through life alone. I know sometimes people feel like you're going through it alone. You feel like there's no family. You feel like the last time you asked for help, uh-oh, maybe somebody, people didn't come through. Maybe I need to turn the car. I want to turn the lights on. But at least try it. Reach out to somebody. Okay. Another story briefly, I was working in church as an outreach minister. I was an outreach director, actually. And I used to be the person that would go and call on people, go to the hospital and visit them, or arrange visits. And I used to, be over certain ministries, go to the nursing homes, go to people's houses, ask how they've been, help people with bereavement. So I would set up counseling group counseling services, and I would take them to the different group counseling resources and places in our community, because different churches, especially nice big mega churches, would offer counseling services, and we would offer some services too. And I would help as many people as I can. But there was a time where there was a couple people that got angry with me, and I didn't know why they were angry. And so, they had been talking to each other, and finally they were like, we need to talk to you. You're supposed to be the outreach director, and we just need to talk to you. And I was like, what? Why do you need to talk to me about what is it? What's going on? And they were like, we've been talking. It was just a few of them, and they were like, and we decided that we had not been coming to church for a while, and you didn't come check on us. Now, mind you, I typically never missed a beat when it came to checking on certain people, right? And so I was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry. Uh, when the group of you left, you seemed to be pretty angry. You said you didn't want to be bothered, and I just wanted to honor you. But I apologize. I should have come anyway. I'm really sorry. I'm normally I do the right thing. I go and visit people, and I reach out to them. So I went to my pastor and I asked my pastor about that. I was like, what do I do in a situation where maybe I missed some person? Maybe I didn't get around to all the people I was supposed to see. And so he said, I'm going to handle this. He stood up on the pulpit and he told everybody, he said, listen, a lot of you want help and you expect somebody to discern when you need something. It works both ways. Just like people reach out to you as outreach directors and ministers and friends and family members, and they pick up the phone and check on you, it works both ways. If you need something, open up your mouth and ask. If you're feeling a certain way, open up your mouth and say it. I was like, oh my God. He said, you're not going to wear out our ministers and our evangelists and everybody in here. 1 minute you say you don't need help, and then people, or you act like you don't need help, and people honor that. And then you get mad at them if they don't help. So he said, it works both ways. Just like we're supposed to be available and avail ourselves to you whenever you're in need and come and ask you if you need something. If something's going on in your life, and say it. I was like, oh my God. I got delivered that day because I was feeling bad that I didn't discern everybody that had a need. So I'm just saying, family, yes, we should feel people's pain. Some people say, well, if he wanted to, he would. If she cared about me, she would have. People have busy lives. People sometimes are not as, discerning about your particular issue or my particular issue. And sometimes they're going through things themselves. How would they know what we need unless we tell them or we advise them? So I'm just saying, we talked about that last night. It works kind of both ways, where so many people we are overlooking our loved ones. But then there are some of our loved ones that get in trouble, or they need help, or they're struggling with depression, anxiety. Some people are psychotic. These are real life issues. Some people hear voices. They experience schizophrenia, or bugs are eating me alive, or they're bipolar, meaning 1 minute they're manicky. They have high, very, very high emotions. They call that manic, and then very, very low emotions. They call that depression or manic depression. Then you have postpartum depression, where women become extremely despondent and feel depressed right after they have a baby, because you're at a brink of death, when you're delivering a baby. And it might seem, like it's an easy thing because women do it all the time, but it's very, very hard. It's so bad when those pains of giving birth, they're so bad that they sometimes put you on a lot of drugs. And then after you have a birth, you will have just given life to a whole human being, and your hormones are in flex. And this is what Mama Dria said she think her daughter experienced. postpartum depression. But a lot of women aren't allowed to say that. When we were in my community, in a so-called black community, you're not allowed to say I have postpartum depression, because black women can do it all. Admitting that you're depressed or that you're going through an issue is admitting that you're not strong. Many of us have that story of saying, I was feeling low, I was depressed, and we were told to suck it up. Many of us have the story that right after birth, we have to go to work, whether you're married or single. But in our community, because we've carried the burden of, raising the children, keeping the house, taking care of our men, and even them, they carried the burden of taking care of us and the children, as well as dealing with a historical racism and discrimination. I mean, we're going to keep it a buck. We're going to keep it 100. Being redlined, being, treated a certain way. This was before, even with affirmative action, but before affirmative action, DEI programs, a lot of us went through that serious depression. But then when the affirmative action programs came that were supposed to offset racism and discrimination and give us opportunities in the workplace so that we can have more resources and stop feeling so depressed, then they started giving those jobs and benefits to Caucasian women, because they said they were minorities, because their men were at the top in the majority. And then after they took a lot of the affirmative action jobs, then they brought in a bunch of immigrants. So now the immigrants call themselves minority. So then you get to a certain point where all the immigrants that were coming here, they felt actually entitled, because they got all the jobs that were earmarked for minorities, the DEI jobs, the affirmative action. Their children got the scholarships that were earmarked for minorities in middle school, elementary, high school, and college. Their children, the deferred action for childhood arrivals and other undocumented students, they got the jobs and many of the benefits on top of government benefits and welfare and food stamps. So you just feel like everybody's living on top of you, and your own so-called government is bringing in people from all over the world to take the jobs and the resources. So it's no wonder everybody in America, or many people, are depressed. And then across the globe, they did the same thing. They brought in immigrants to their lands. Or if they didn't bring in a bunch of immigrants, like you talking about the Caribbean, they brought in the East Indians. The East Indians colonized a lot of the Caribbeans and the Chinese. They brought them in, gave them the benefits, gave them higher ranking and status. So you got a lot of people in the Caribbean islands that now suffer from depression, alcoholism, drugs, just like people in the so-called black community and the rural communities in America, because all the resources, the beaches, the water, the jobs, all that went to a lot of the other people, like the East Indians and the Chinese in the Caribbean island. Then you talk about what happened in Africa and in the Caribbean and other places. They ship in a bunch of Caucasian and Europe, so-called white American men and European men, and gave them opportunities so they can take up all the beaches, take up the prime real estate, have their golf courses and gated communities, and allow them to build up on the beaches, build up all their corporate entities. So some of these people were European males, and then some of them may have been, who knows, beings that weren't even human, or human hybrids. I don't know, because I'm trying to figure out how these people have so much money that they have a monopoly on all the businesses, and they're buying up all the real estate, all the prime real estate along the beaches and farmlands. How do they come up with all this money? Or are they accessing everybody's trust, the indigenous people's trust all over the world? So it's happening in America way more than it's happening everywhere else. But all these people all across the world are depressed because of these beings that were in power, that allowed other people to come in their borders and colonize their areas and take over the resources and make themselves comfortable eating off the fat of the land, living in their gated communities and on their beach houses, while the indigenous people, the national people that come from these regions suffer. It's been their policy to do that. It's no wonder everybody's depressed. On top of the negative music, the entertainment industry that's negative, and the low vibrations and the frequencies and the pollution in the water and the food. You don't even know what food to eat. And Mama Dria and I talked about that as well. They'll say something like, your children are malnourished and you're malnourished. Well, God darn, I can't eat anything. And sometimes you eat because you have to, so, and then you become obese and overweight because the food is filled with chemicals. All I'm saying is the issue of depression, anxiety, psychosis, other mental health issues is so prevalent and so pervasive that we need to talk about it. And we need to set up crisis centers, and we need to, as a community, as a human family, to work together to help the people that's in our family. Mama Dria was talking about last night how by the time she got to her daughter, who had suffered postpartum depression and some other psychological issues that we didn't even know about, by the time she got to her, it was almost too late. In some ways it was, because, if you heard the story, she told the story, and I have to be careful what I say. We put the video, it's private now, it's in the members only section on my YouTube channel and all over my other social media channels. We had to we took it down because it's a high profile case, but that's weird. We're not allowed to talk about it, but mainstream media took the story and they spread it all over the world, and they spun it like Mama Dria's daughter just didn't care about her children and she just did something evil to her children. No, she was depressed. She was struggling. She was a single mom. She felt like she couldn't reach out because she had been getting help before, but now it's like, I'm having these other issues. I don't know what's going on with. She's 29. She didn't know what was going on with herself. Somehow she still made it. She got up and fed her children, but it wasn't enough, and they ended up malnourished, and one of them passed away. But she did call the hospital and say something's wrong with my daughter, and we don't even know if they were really malnourished. We don't know. This is what the mainstream media said. But come and find out, as Mama Dria and I were talking, she was sharing some stories with me. It's a lot of stuff happening with young children in Missouri where they're passing away. And these reporters are taking a story, making them go viral, and the police are covering up evidence, not disclosing information. We're like, what is going on? So Mama Dria's daughter got locked up. One of the children passed away. Now Mama Dria has to raise the other child. And it's a sad, sad story of a young mother, 29, suffering from mental health issues, who couldn't get help, didn't know how to ask for help. And now the report said she fed them. They were like, all she fed them was fruits and vegetables. What? That's food. What are you talking about? You wanted to feed the children cookies and cakes and Kool-Aid? And I'm not saying there was nothing wrong here. What I'm saying is, I don't trust, and neither do we, most of us, mainstream media, police departments, the food industry. It's like everywhere you look, there's something that's against you. But we have to hold on, family. We have to hold on and help each other through all type of issues and crises. So now Mama Dria has to bury one of her grandchildren. She's only 48, Mama Dria. Or Sister Dria, some of you call her Sister Dria. And her daughter's incarcerated, and they were working last night to get her some mental health. And it was crazy because they wouldn't let family really at first get to the daughter or talk to her, just held her without bail and denied bail and wouldn't let her see her family members. This is evil. Like even if I am negligent or something, or I did something I should not have done, why can't my family talk to me? So you're going to isolate a young woman who suffered from depression. One of her children passed away. Another one, she doesn't know where the child is. Thank God Mama Dria has her. And I can't get any help. You can't give me any counseling. You can't give me any family support. This is not rehabilitation. So all I'm saying, family, is there's so much going on. When we did that report last night, family, many people just in the comment section going through grape or having been raped, going through being mistreated, going through being abused physically, psychologically, emotionally, trying to get help, some of them from certain institutions, and either not having access to the help or not knowing how to access it. And so these are opportunities, for us to extend grace and compassion to one another, extend grace and compassion to our family and our friends, and to go and look for them. You know how when you get angry, you say stuff like, I'm gonna hunt you down, I'm gonna find you, or you can't hide because you said something that hurt my feelings. Oh, I'm gonna find you. Just like we can find somebody when we're angry and in a rage and we need vengeance. Let's use energy to go and find people who are in crisis. Let's extend grace. That's what we talked about at the end of the show. Let's extend grace and compassion for those that are going through something. Because everybody has been distressed or stressed out at some point. Everybody has felt sad or lonely at some point, or angry, or grieved a loss, whether it was a loss in a relationship, a loss in divorce, a loss of a life, of a loved one. We've all a loss of some significant change, a loss of a job, loss of money and resources. We've all had something that we had to deal with. So thank you for saying hit the like button, Reverend Doctor. So since we've all experienced something, y'all might hear my car, it's loud. Since we all experienced something, family, let's show grace to people. Because some people don't know how to ask for help. Especially in a cancel culture, when you keep hearing, if you have family issues, just cut them off. If you have issues with your baby's parent, cut them off. If you have issues with your husband or wife, just leave. If you have issues with your parents, how dare they have an issue, or how dare they be so hard on you, or how dare they say something. We act like people aren't human and like they don't make mistakes. It's not always a good idea to cut people off. And we also live in a society where everybody's a narcissist. Have you noticed that? Soon as people got that word in their vocabulary, they can't let it go. Oh, he's a narcissist. Oh, she's a narcissist. Well, my mom's a narcissist. My dad's a narcissist. My companion's a narcissist. No, if everybody's a narcissist, baby, it's probably you. You know what I'm saying? If everybody got an issue and everybody got a problem, everybody that you know, everybody around you got a problem, it might be you or me. But narcissism is not a word that should be attached to people in general. This is a severe issue, narcissism. Somebody that has a dictionary or that can ask ChatGPT, can you put in the comment section what is narcissism? Because that wasn't even in the diagnostic, the DSM-3 or 4 when I was studying psychology, diagnostic statistical manual. We weren't even talking about, and they might have had narcissistic disorder. If they did, they rarely used it. What's narcissism? Because since people heard that word in the media, they think everybody's a narcissist. They want to cut all people off because they're narcissistic. Everybody's not a narcissist. Everybody's not arrogant. People are human and they make mistakes. Or sometimes they correct us and we don't like to be corrected. Because we're also living in a society where people think you can't tell them nothing. Don't judge me. Don't tell me nothing. Don't shame me. I can do whatever I want to do. I can be as big as I want, even if it's unhealthy. Because sometimes a parent will tell a child you're eating a little much, or tell their adult child, you need to slim down, or somebody in your family might say you need to slim down. Now, if a doctor tell you obese, then all of a sudden, it means something. But if your family member says, I would love for you to lose a little weight, all of a sudden you're being judged and they're a narcissist. If somebody tells somebody in the family you're rude or you're disrespectful, oh, you're a narcissist. Well, maybe we're rude and disrespectful. But my point is, we live in a society where there's cancel culture. They tell you just cancel everybody else. They call all people, everybody's a narcissist. People don't want to be corrected. People don't want to be judged. And judgment really is just looking at a situation and making a decision based on all the facts that you have. So we used to have judges in our community, and those were the elders. If they saw a problem, they would be like, baby, I know you're trying to do your best, but you're mean. So you need to learn some communication skills, and mama gonna teach you. Or baby, this is what the older ladies used to tell us. Now, you're too young for your hips to be spreading. You're too young. We weren't allowed to have how people have what they call it, a fupa and a tummy. We weren't allowed to have that when I was growing up. It's no big deal today, so I'm not trying to shame anybody. We weren't allowed to have fupas. We weren't allowed to have bellies hanging over our skirts. And if you were like on the thick side, maybe you just had a baby, you were expected to wear a girdle. This is just the way our foremothers taught us. We weren't allowed to have breasts that was drooping all over the place. We had to literally do exercises. From the time I was young, we were saying, I must increase my bust or something like that. And like that, what we meant is tighten, tone it, make them perky. I'm 58, I'll be 58 this year. You 50 something, you weren't allowed to be overweight. Right after you had a baby, you nursed your baby on your breast so that your womb could shrink, which will make you lose weight. You went walking. You did aerobic exercises in your house to the tapes. You might have had Jane Fonda workouts, or the little guy with the curly hair and the tiny, tiny shorts. God forbid. Or the Billy Blanks Taibo workshop. You remember that? Or you jump roped and hula hooped and you went walking. Because we weren't allowed to be. They told us they didn't call you thick. They called you fat and sloppy. No older women in my day, you're getting fat and sloppy, baby. Tone it up. They didn't mind shaming. You're getting a little too overweight, baby. Or the men would pull the men aside and say, I saw what you did or what you said, that wasn't appropriate. Now, I'm not gonna have to come. I better not have to come around here and tell you again. Now, I done heard what you said to your wife, or I done heard what you did last night. And I don't want to hear about that no more. You remember back in the day when we held each other accountable? When we were involved in each other's life? But they have told us as parents and elders, stay out of their business. Don't tell people what to do. You too nosy. Now the cop can come and knock them upside the head. The cop can come and use something and tase you or do whatever they want to do, but the parents aren't allowed to discipline the children. In my opinion, we need to take our families back. In my opinion, we as elders need to take our position back and put our foot down and say, this is what we allow and what we won't. And if you do it from the time the children are born and you raise them up that way, most times they'll listen. But you always got that sometimes they won't listen, because they go to school, and in schools they're told they can do whatever they want. The laws sometimes say that they can do whatever they want. I've heard of children divorcing their parents because they didn't like the rules that their parents set before them. let's take control of our children and our families. And you know what? If society is propagandizing our children and filling our children with filling our children with hatred, or filling our children with propaganda, whatever, miseducation, then that means we need to withdraw our children from society. And what I mean by that is, if the schools are teaching something that's against my value system, then my children don't need to be in the schools. I need to find a way to educate my own children, or my community needs to get together and pull our resources together to educate our own children. What happened to the day when we did that? We're going to have to get back to, because our children are suffering in silence, many of them. If going to the colleges away from the family is going to propagandize our young people before the brain that deals with making decisions doesn't develop until the age 25. So college age, you're 17. Some of you that are 18, let's say 17, 18. I was 17. Most people were 18. Up to what? 19, 20, 21, 22, maybe 23. You're still not 25. They get bombarded with alcohol, temptations for alcohol. They get bombarded to have a bunch of sex before some of them are ready. They get bombarded to be ran through as women. They get bombarded and strongly encouraged to pledge in these Greek for sororities and fraternities. And y'all, I worked at the universities. I know there's a lot of craziness going on in those Greek sororities and fraternities. They get hazed. They have to go through rituals in order to prove themselves worthy enough to be in the sororities and fraternities. Dr. Ricky Jones, who was the chair of the Pan-African Studies Department at the University of Louisville, where I went, and he was also on my dissertation committee for me to get to defend my research, where I defended my research for my PhD. Dr. Ricky Jones wrote a book called Black Haze, and it talks about the hazing that goes on in Black Greek fraternities and sororities. And he only wrote on Black Haze because he was talking about the experience in the Black Greek sororities and fraternities. But the same things go on in the white Greek fraternities and sororities. They make them go through certain things like getting paddled, getting beat up, forced to have sex with people, animals, maybe, doing all these type of things, pledging to gods and goddesses that maybe they're not the god of their lineage or their bloodline. Making them drink gallons of water. One guy in his book Black Haze was forced to swim across the ocean and died, was unalive. But when we send our children away to college, we don't know what they're getting into. And the rule, I was a student personnel professional in higher education. I was a counselor and academic support counselor, academic counselor, academic advisor. I was a project coordinator. I was all kind of things, director of programs. We're trained, and a professor, and we're told you cannot tell family what these children are going through, even if they ask you. If they are having depression, if they have ideations where they want to harm themselves or somebody else, you can't tell the family or the friend or anybody, because the children have a right to privacy. But just think, we send our children to public schools for 7 to 8 hours a day. From the time that they're babies, they're in daycare, 7 to 8 hours. Then they go to preschool, then elementary, then middle school, then high school. All those hours they're away from us. Then they're sent away to college with a bunch of strangers who don't have their best interests at heart. And we wonder why they're depressed. And we push them out the house at 18. All of a sudden they're grown at 18, when just 17 they were a child. Just 16, 17 they were a child. But 18 now they're an adult. All of a sudden they can vote. They can smoke. I think they can smoke. Used to be you couldn't smoke till 21. They can smoke. They can have all the XA they want. In some states they could even get married as a child. There's a woman by the name of Sherry, I think it's Sherry Johnson. Sister Sherry, if you're listening to my show tonight, thank you so much for sharing your story with me late last night. Sherry Johnson is from Florida. She heard my story, my show last night with Mama Drea. Mama Drea, whose daughter is incarcerated now, and the other baby passed away, and they're going to dealing with that issue because her daughter had depression and some mental health issues that we're trying to figure out right now. But Mama Drea was forced to get married as a teenager because she was in church, and she with her first boyfriend she ever had, you know, I think they ended up pregnant, and so the church forced her to get married. Mama Drea said she was a teenager, and she was stuck when you're in church and you're told this is what God wants, and if you don't do what God say, you'll go to hell and you'll die and you'll burn. If this is your how you've been raised, then that's what so she said she was telling her story about how she was forced to be married, and she was depressed, and she went through uh postpartum depression herself, and how she was despondent when she was like raising some of her children because she was in a marriage that where she felt stuck. Well, when Mama Sherry Johnson heard my story last night and heard me interview Mama Drea, Sherry Johnson emailed me, and she said, "I'm supposed to be traveling, Dr. Pruitt." This is what Sherry Johnson said. "But I heard you interview Mama Drea, and I had to pull over, and I had to listen to the story, and it hit home. And I had a lot of emotions, it took me back." She said, I need you to Google me and hear about my story, because it was Mama Drea's testimony was so profound that all I could do is just sit and listen and reflect and have backflashes of what I went through as a child. And she said, I just Google me. She couldn't even talk about it, right? So I was like, okay. So I said, well, out of honor and respect for her, because she took the time out to email me and to listen to my story, I said, let me Google her. Sherry Johnson was married to a man who raped her. She was a child who was raped at 9 and 10 years old by a church deacon. When she told her mom, this is not Mama Dria, this is Sherry who heard our story. When she told her mom what happened, her mom said, oh, that didn't happen. And Sherry said she told her mom it did happen. And over time, the child kept saying, I'm being raped. And when her mom took her to the hospital, it was confirmed that she was being raped by a man who was double her age. It was not only discovered that she had been raped, but she was pregnant. So the church bishop called the mama and said, we got to rectify this situation. My deacon, a grown man, wasn't he grown? He's 20, he's grown. And according to he ain't 18, he ain't 7, raped your 9, 10-year-old daughter. Oh, they gonna get married. She was forced into a childhood marriage. She ended up having about 4 or 5 children for him as a child. She had her first child at 11. Can you imagine that? And the church condoned it, the bishop, because this is some of the things, even though we love a lot of the values from the church, and we love the values, from to traditional ways, some things we gotta redo, because the shame of her being raped and having a baby by a grown man was something that they wanted to cover up through marriage, rather than dealing with the 20-year-old who was raping her. Can you imagine being forced into a relationship with somebody who's harming you, raping you, and you don't even know the first thing about sex? And then you have to have children for him? And you have to go along with that? So Sherry Johnson changed legislation in Florida and banned childhood marriage. And that wasn't even that long ago when she banned it. This is how sick a lot of people are. Thank you for the child, for the mystical energy says, thank you so much for your wisdom and grace, Queen. People really need to wake up and start helping each other again. Amen. That's how we can end most of these woes and become a stronger community. God bless you. I am so for you, mystical energy. I appreciate you so much. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for acknowledging the work we're doing. We really are doing our best to bring, these issues to light. And more importantly, may your ancestors in the Most High bless you triplefold, sevenfold, tenfold for all the comments and the help that you provide and all the support you provide. And also may the Most High bless you for gifting me with $100 this evening. Thank you. So Sherry Johnson's story was so heart-wrenching that it made it to the Jada Pinkett's Red Table Talks discussion. So look her up, Sherry Johnson. But there are a lot of girls that have been raped and bothered. And typically it happens with somebody in the family or somebody she knows. And what happens is when you're a child and these things happen to you, you can become developmentally delayed. You can become depressed. You can become a drug addict because you're trying to cope. Trying to cope with trauma is a real thing. Imagine trying to live your everyday life after being raped and going to work, raising children. And that, I know that's a traumatic case, but even if you think of something that's not so traumatic, a lot of us are making it day by day. We've gone through divorce. We've gone through bereavement. We've gone through death, loss. We went through COVID. We went through the whole world being shut down. We went through doctors and nurses and protocols being put in place to harm people. We went through ventilators and harmful jabs, and and then you speak out about it and they take down your channel or they try to silence you or call you crazy. We've been through a lot. We've been through the government's allowing other nations to come into our borders to take the jobs, resources. So have jobs and resources, and we're looking at each other, yell at each other, get a job, do better, make better decisions, not even realizing that the government was against the people, the sovereign people on the land, and bringing in others and giving them benefits. And then the others that are telling themselves of the benefits, some of them may have needed the help, and then some of them just took advantage. But even I imagine some of them that came over here and they were entitled and they're feeling good and they're feeling better than everybody. And they can tell everybody, y'all Americans are lazy and you're dirty and you need to pull yourself up by the bootstraps and you need to learn to live like us and be like us. Imagine them being so entitled and all of a sudden it's coming crashing down. And the same people you turned your nose at is saying, get off my land. You're not wanted. Go home. They are ticked off and they're doing everything they can to hold on to those government benefits and those entitlement resources. They're taking President Donald Trump to court. They're taking this whole administration to court, and the judges and attorneys are working with them. President Donald Trump, though, has questioned birthright citizenship. He's ending F1 visas with student visas where students were coming over here saying they were going to study for a few years and end up staying for the rest of their lives and having children and getting resources and jobs and work permits. He's curtailing the privileges of the F1 visas, the student visas. He is doing away with H-1B visas where foreign nationals were allowed on our lands to take the top industry jobs. Finance, engineering, medicine, architect. You have 5.3 million East Indians that are here living off the benefits of the land, living off the benefits of the Americans and the real Indians, indigenous people of the Americas. 5.3 million. We got lots of them on H-1B visas working those industries. So many of them, most of them work in those four industries: finance, engineering, medicine, and architect. But then we heard a report where you also have now an influx of them that are coming in, taking in the service industry jobs, the factory jobs, the Amazon jobs, the daycare jobs, the entry-level positions that some of your children could be taking. Some of your college students could have. Some of your skilled laborers could have. Construction, And it's not just the F-1B visas, it's also the humanitarian work visas that were granted to foreign nationals. All type of visas. And I understand not being mad at people who availed themselves of the opportunities and came here, other than the fact that a lot of them, they will say to your face, we work harder than you and we take the jobs y'all don't want and y'all lazy. I mean, they'll say that to your face, some of them. But I'm not even mad at them. All I'm saying is the time is up. Because while people were coming here to enjoy the fruits of the land and enjoy the benefits and feeling entitled, Americans have suffered. Depression is at an all-time high. Anxiety is at an all-time high. Suicide is at an all-time high. Homicide is at an all-time high. Divorce rates are at an all-time high. We have to deal with Americans first. And now all the people that got health care, degrees here, privileges, resources, money, loans, racked up debt, all of that they got here. I'm actually happy for them that they can take all that back home. They get to go back home and build up their nation. They get to use their medical degrees. They get to use their architect degrees and build up their infrastructure. They get to now, as engineers, build up the infrastructure, clean the water and the skies. And finances now and banking, all the jobs that they got here while they were living as CEOs and financial advisors, they can use all that knowledge and information and certification to make their country great, to clean up the banking policies, build the infrastructure, clean up the water. I am so excited for them. And I'm so very happy. Congratulations. They can go home and make their country great. That's a beautiful thing. I am very happy for them. Meanwhile, we need to figure out how we're going to deal with the aftermath of all these people living on top of us, enjoying the privileges on the land. Yes, they send billions of money. Thank you for that. They send billions of money and dollars to their countries on top of giving their foreign nationals that they bring here benefits and resources. It just shows how corrupt of a system that we've been living in. And they do not respect indigenous people of this land. They don't, because they were told we were just some slaves from Africa who always whining and complaining, we're just some slaves from Africa who moan and complain and always crying about racism. And you people, that's what they like to say, you people got it good in America. We come to America with $5 in a dream. I come with nothing, and we got it good. You didn't tell us about the food stamps. You didn't tell us about the government benefits, the English programs that you were allowed. You didn't tell us about how when you came to school and didn't learn English, how they put you in what they call it, ESL, English as a second language classes. And many of you were just passed along and all you did was do crossword puzzles in those classes. I know, because I was a substitute teacher and a teacher, and I saw the ESL. Everybody wants to teach ESL class because you don't have to do anything with those students. They can draw and color and do crossword puzzles. You didn't tell us about that. You people don't want to work. That's what they said about us. Despite the fact that we went through being the prisoners of war here, that were colonized and had not only Europeans come here, the Moors come from Europe over here and bring their slaves. Then they brought all these other Europeans into our country. Then they bring your criminals, bring your prisoners, bring your hawk, your maim, bring everybody. After they made us prisoners of war, we lost the war, stole our land, gave the land to other people, and we had to fight our way out to where we are today, but we're lazy. Oh, yeah, they said that about this. And then They come to find out we're not slaves from Africa. We didn't travel from Africa. We were already here. Before you came, your mama, your daddy, your grandma, your uncle, your cousins, all them that you brought over here to live on our land and enjoy the houses and the resources, that was left by our ancestors for us. But it was stolen. I mean, to the victor goes the spoils. But guess what? The time is up. And the sleeping giants have awakened. We know we're not from Africa. And some of the people from Africa tried to tell us, you're not, we didn't sell you. They might have sold their own people, but they ain't sell us. What about the slave buildings over there in Africa and in Ghana and all across? I don't know what about them. I ain't got nothing to do with that. Because they ain't sell my people. I don't know who they sold. And they will tell you we didn't sell you people. We didn't come from Africa. Most of us. Anybody say they came from Africa? Well, then I'm glad they did their lineage. Most of us were already here. There are many books you can read about that. Even the 1828 Webster's definition of American is the copper-colored races discovered by Europeans, but now applied to Europeans. So, and there are definitions that precede the 1828 Webster's definition for American, but we're not from Africa. And so you've had all throughout our lives, people say we're from Africa. We were sold into slavery here. And the reason why they do this, the American government, the education system, the people that come over here and live off our land, is because they want to displace us from our land. They don't want us to feel a connection to the land. They don't want us to trace our lineage and discover where exactly our lineage came from. They will put even leaders that look like us up to say that we're not from here. Most of these people in power, let me tell you something. I had a Freemason to tell me. Most people in power are a part of, if not all of them. In fact, he said every single person that they put in front of you, I don't care if they were in the civil rights movement, I don't care if they're on social media, I don't care if they're in the doctors, the nurses, and the churches, every leader that's at the top that they put in front of you has pledged to some secret society, and they work for the Illuminati, the secret society. He's a Mason. And trust me, there are things Masons have to do in order to keep their place. And they are told when they pledge to keep their foot on the neck of the black man and woman, the indigenous, even if it's their own family members. And they sell themselves out for a few dollars and for some status. But I'm going to tell you one better. A lot of these leaders that they put in front of us ain't even from America. Look at the entertainers. Most of them aren't American. Look at the singers, the rappers. They might be brown. They might look like us, but they ain't us. They're not American. The politicians, they're not American. People on social media telling you not to claim your land, not to look at your bloodline. They ain't even American. They're masquerading as American. And they've been contracted by the deep state, by the Illuminati, to keep us blind and from looking into our bloodline to discover that these lands were the lands of our ancestors. Now, the only people that'll tell you that you shouldn't want to be happy about where you came from are either foreign nationals or enemies. Now, the people that came over here from other countries, when you say this is my land and land of my ancestors, they'll tell you, you can't claim the land. The land don't belong to anybody. Well, your mangy, lazy behind wouldn't clean up your own land, own home, but you came over here and enjoyed the benefits and got some entitlement benefits and was arrogant. So you think you have the nerve to say what land belongs to somebody and what doesn't? That's a lot of arrogancy. So let's talk about this issue. Because a lot of them not only came here and enjoyed the benefits of the land, they also had children on the land. And just because they had a child here, the child automatically was considered an American or a United States citizen. So now we have an issue of birthright citizenship, because just because a person came over here and delivered their child, that shouldn't automatically give them the status of a privilege of calling them a United States citizen. Even though a United States citizen is chattel property of the government that's defunct. But okay, you want to call yourself United States citizen. We can't be United States citizen. We're not even supposed to be. I'm talking about indigenous people. We're sovereign. Everybody else is a citizen or chattel property of the United States. But they would come over here and children, and their children would automatically become citizens just because they were born on the land. No other place in the world is that allowed. That doesn't happen anywhere else in the world. Only in America. Why do the people in power want to displace the indigenous Americans that are misclassified as African American, Negro, Black, and colored? Why are they allowing everybody else to come over here to take our place? Are they trying to destiny swap? Are they trying to replace us? While at the same time telling us we're not from these lands, we're from Africa, and somehow we were put on a slave ship and came through all across the Atlantic Ocean in some little boarded wooden boats. You mean to I ain't that stupid. What really happened is that there were some people that came from Europe. Some people said they were the Moors that got kicked out of Europe, because remember, the Moors ruled Spain between 711 and 1492. That same year, 1492, when they ruled that, then they got kicked out of Spain and Europe, and they came here and colonized the indigenous people here. The indigenous Moors, and M-U-U-R-S. They say there's a difference between M-O-O-R-S, those that colonize Europe, and the ones that the brown copper colored people here. We went to war, allegedly, from history, from what I'm reading and understanding, and they brought their Slavics, their slaves, their European slaves, as colonists to replace us and put them in top positions. It's an art of war. Machiavelli talked about it in books like The Prince. There are two ways to colonize a place. You bring in the military, or you bring in your slaves. You bring another group of people and you give them privileges. What do you think voting so-called rights are? That's a privilege. You don't have a right to vote. You have a privilege to vote. What do you think licenses are? Those are privileges afforded by the United States Incorporated, the fake faux government whose powers were overturned by the Supreme Court of the United States when they overturned the Chevron Doctrine on June 2024. The fake faux government called the United States Incorporated, that incorporated themselves in 1871 as a nonprofit religious organization, is now defunct, bankrupt, and insolvent. They afforded privileges to people they call citizens, meaning that you belong to them. You're beholden to them as chattel property. So this is what the elites, Elohim or Elites, have been doing all across the world. They brought in Chinese and Indians to colonize the Caribbean islands. They brought in Europeans, and now everybody else and their mama and daddy to colonize us. So Machiavelli said it's more expensive to bring in an army, a military, and it's you got a lot of bloodshed. You got to train the military. You got to feed them. You got to worry that they might turn on you. But what you do is you bring your slaves or some other nationality of people. You bring them into a place that you're trying to take over. You let them colonize the indigenous people for you, and those people will become beholden to you. And now we see why so many people are arrogant and entitled, because they were used by the deep state and the fake faux government, the Illuminati, to enslave indigenous peoples all across the world. And they were giving all type of resources and even lands that the indigenous people had stolen from them. So you have people delivering their children on our lands, and their children automatically became citizens, and it was said that they were subject to the jurisdiction of the state in which they were born, and they got a passport automatically, and some of these children would then go back to their homeland, the homelands of their parents, because most of their parents are undocumented or illegal, okay? Or they would just stay right here, go to school after the mama had the baby and racked up a bunch of hospital and doctors and anesthesia debts and critical care debts, because having a baby costs 10 to 20, what is it? No, 100,000 costs hundreds of thousands of dollars, excuse me. So they had racked up that debt. They might go abroad and then come back later, or they might stay right here. And then by way of the child being born on the land, hit the like button, family, the parents would get benefits just because their child was born on our lands. Their parents would get food. And it was an immigrant woman. She said she's a legal immigrant woman, to get on social media and say it made her upset. She was like, I'm watching all these people come here and have babies, because she's a social worker, and all of a sudden you have hundreds and thousands of mothers and fathers getting welfare benefits and Section 8 housing, and they don't just get most of them don't go to the projects. They get Section 8 housing in the nice gated communities. Some of them do take up the lower income housing, or they'll take up, nicer houses, and they get WIC and they get food stamps. They get temporary assistance for needy families for the rest of their lives. They get free education, free health care, the child, the mama, the daddy, and everybody else they bring over here. And let's talk about those H-1 visas just a minute ago. I told you all that 90,000 H-1B visas are processed per year, every single year, allowing foreign nationals to come on our lands to take jobs. 90,000 per year, but also consider that their spouses are also afforded a visa. So that's 180,000. Those are just the Indians and Chinese that are processed through the H-1B visa. How many other people come on the H-1B visa? So you're talking about 90,000 that are processed every year, plus their spouses are brought over here, and then consider 400,000 renewals on top of that every year. H-1B visa, so people come in here and work. And most of those jobs, again, are finance, engineering, medicine, and architect. And let us not even talk about how Chief Mack and I talked about how on the show, millions of medical degrees that have been handed out here in America are fake. India was selling fake medical degrees. And a lot of the Indians that are here that are working in medicine have those degrees. That's documented. You wonder why so many people are being misdiagnosed? Maybe they never took gross anatomy, physiology, histology, biology, chemistry, organic chemistry, physics. Maybe they never been trained. So this is why H-1B visas will end as of 2027. No more will be processed. So you're talking about 90,000 per year plus their spouses. That's 100,000. That's just Indians and Chinese. I don't know how many others. Then 400,000 processed on top of that, or renewed each year. Then you got the F1 student visas. Then you got the tourism visas. Then you have, what else? Fiance visas, all type of visas. And then when those visas expired, they would just stay here in America, and they will apply for a change of status, and they will wait for those green cards, even if it took years, 10, 20 years, who cares? And they were allowed to work, vote, marry, have children. And these are illegal. They're illegal because their time expired. So back to the birthright citizenship, I got sidetracked. They would deliver their children here. Some of the men would bring a whole bunch of women here, say they were all their wives. They would deliver their children here. But the government only acknowledges the first wife as the legitimate wife. So all the other wives who are now considered baby mamas and single parents, they get more benefits, right? Got to take care of the vulnerable. While they were calling women classified as Black, us indigenous women, welfare queens, yeah, they were coming from all over the world, dropping out their babies. So they would get birthright citizenship just because they were born on the land, but their parents were nationals from another country. So recently, President Donald Trump was questioning citizenship, birthright citizenship, and saying this not allowed to happen in any other country. So we got to stop it here in America. We cannot afford to pay for everybody. We can't even take care of our own. What they're not telling you, and I've told people many times, the United States government is broke. The Treasury Department put out a report September 2025 that said the United States Incorporated, the government, is insolvent. This is the real reason we had a government shutdown in 2025 and people were asked to take an early retirement and people left their jobs. This is the real reason we're under a partial government shutdown right now and the Department of Education is being dismantled, the IRS, the CBC, the CIA, the FBI. This is the real reason why we're having raids at the ports and raids in the banks and raids all over the country. Raids in the police department, raids in all type of businesses. Because the government is broken. They can no longer afford to pay these people that they put in position. So Trump said, now that we're trying to clean up America, we really got to deal with this birthright citizenship deal because even the Native Americans are not from here. They're Syrians. Siberians. They're from Asia. That's why they look. I've always wondered, why do they look like Chinese and Asians? They don't look like us. Well, they were allowed to come, but they're not. They're not from these lands. They're foreign nationals. So recently, the breaking news was just the other day, maybe yesterday or the day before, the Supreme Court ruled that President Trump cannot do anything about the birthright citizenship. I don't remember how I worded that. How did I word that? I can't see it here. Thank you for the heart. So, birthright citizenship is allowed to say. So, President Trump's executive order to end birthright citizenship was not acknowledged. The Supreme Court ruled against President Donald Trump. Thank you. Thank you, Natasha. Natasha said he's now going to use Congress then. So the Supreme Court ruled against President Trump. You sent 100? You did? Thank you. Thank you, Ya Design. I didn't see that. I really appreciate you for sending money, for sending 100. I assume you're telling me you sent 100. Anybody that sent a Cash App, I can't see that, but thank you. And for those of you that sent it last night, Mama Kia 13, $ MAMAKIA 13. Thank you so much. But they ruled against Trump. And now, you have a lot of attorneys, immigration attorneys online. They're like, we got a victory. Finally, the Supreme Court ruled 6-3 against President Donald Trump. If they approve birthright citizenship, it would mean that they would have to leave and go home as well, since all of them are immigrants. She's Caucasians included, Tony said. Yep. So, so I looked it up. Can President Trump ignore the Supreme Court? And they said, from what I researched, there have been times when a president has ignored the Supreme Court, and the only thing they would do is they would try to, what's the word? God, what's the word that escapes me? They would impeach him. They can try to impeach a president that will overturn or that will ignore and reject whatever the Supreme Court says. But you all are saying Congress is going to get them. Congress is going to get them. I knew President Trump was had to have some type of way that he can ignore what they say. So the victory that people think they have right now is going to be very short. short-term victory. Um, because he's going to find a way to end birthright citizenship. It's just too many people on our land that's able to have access to benefits and resources, and we can't afford to pay it because the United States Incorporated is broke and nobody's buying the United States Treasury bonds. All the countries that were buying United States debt or United States Treasury bonds have dropped the bonds. That means the United States government is not getting money that way, and they can't keep printing up money. The Federal Reserve doesn't even have power anymore because they also were declared as insolvent. And the Supreme Court, the same court that overturned the Chevron doctrine that and limited, and now said that they are limiting the powers of the government. They found the government to be treasonous. All 447 agencies, governmental agencies, are treasonous, committed treason and misprision of treason, and all the judges committed treason. They did that June 2024, and then July 2024, the Supreme Court said that state-sponsored banks can operate independently from the Federal Reserve central banking system, meaning they can have their own charter, their own rules, their own laws, and issue out their own gold-backed currencies. So you have state-sponsored banks issuing out gold-backed currencies. They're compliant through Basel III and Basel IV compliances. They're now, they have tier one assets, gold, and tier two assets such as foreign currencies in their banks. They have to now be transparent. They can no longer do bank bail-ins and steal your money. They have to operate benevolently. And now that the state sponsored banks are doing all this on top of issuing out gold-backed currencies, there's no need for a Federal Reserve. They can't print out any money. For one, they don't have any money to print, and the printing presses have been shut off. So the government really has no power. You may have a small faction of them still operating, but they don't have any power. Absolutely, President Trump has to end it. This is bigger than the Supreme Court. It really is. The postmaster made that announcement. Ooh-wee. Y'all, you all are so intelligent. President Trump might announce the new gold-backed currencies this weekend. Let's hope so. Because the United States Treasury Department is the only entity that can deal with money, finance, and banking. They determined around, May, that President Trump can issue out all paper currencies. That means the fiat is gone. But they also came back and said that President Trump can have issue out a currency with his signature and his likeness, his face on it. Well, that currency, though, will be gold back. So the Supreme Court is actually ending the Federal Reserve central banking system. Why even use the branches of government? Well, because, that was a part of their plan for the president, the CEO of the corporation, to collapse the corporation and then to resurrect the restored republic. And when you think about it, if you just came on and kicked down the doors and changed over power and said, hey, we're restoring the republic, people would freak out, just like they did when the people went into, where did they go into? J6. Where'd they go? The People's House. When they went in there and took over and took a lot of the paperwork, and the one dude staked the totem pole, people was freaking out, calling them a coup d'etat, and said this was an insurgency and they needed to be locked up because people were following what the mainstream media said. However, you have a right, if the government is being rogue or goes rogue and starts to mistreat the people, or if the government is the coup d'etat that took over your republic, you have a right to create a military and go on and storm the White House and yank them people up out of there. But when it happens, people get in a panic. Oh my God, They're unconstitutional. The J6ers locked them up. That people don't know what the Constitution says. They had a right to do that. So imagine if people do it now and just say, hey, we're tearing down the White House. Hey, we're overtaking everything and restoring the republic. We're going to stake the totem pole. People, most of the world would think that people had lost their minds. So what makes more sense is to use their own methods, passing legislation, letting the Supreme Court make decisions against them, using the executive orders as the CEO that's in charge. The CEO is the president of the corporation. He got a right to fire or hire whomever he will. And that's exactly what he's doing. And then you could do that in-house. And people, they might think you're a little crazy, but they're not going to lose it. And then at the same time, you resurrect the republic, which is our lawful government. Brilliant plan. But they're having a hard time because a lot of these people that's in these government positions, in the Supreme Court positions, a lot of these judges and attorneys, they're not American. They're foreign nationals, many of whom are illegal immigrants. And the ones that are here that are legally are not lawful. We need to understand there's a difference between legal and lawful. Somebody asked me, how can President Trump, how can you be so happy, Dr. Pruitt? You seem happy. Because I announced President Trump actually got rid of more legal immigrants than illegal immigrants. People are upset with me for saying that. How can he do that? What gives him the authority to do that? Well, legal is not lawful. You might be a legal immigrant all day long. United States Incorporated called you a citizen. You're chattel property. You pay your taxes. You're paying tribute to your captor or your slave master that gave you privileges to call yourself a citizen and privileges to vote. That's legal because the United States Incorporated gave you that privilege and they created their own constitution of the corporation. It's just a corporation or a business that has a constitution for how the business will be run. And that business brought people over here, gave them a position, calling them citizens, and forced you to pay them tribute while they gave you the benefits of somebody that didn't even belong to them to give. But all of it's illegal. The government, the ones they allow to come over here, their policies, statutes, codes, and constitution. It's all unlawful. Now, to them, it's legal. Legal just means that they're in compliance to the company or the corporation, United States Incorporated, and the Constitution. But it's not lawful because lawful would mean that it's in alignment with the republic. Legal, lawful, two different things. You can be a legal citizen all day long. That does not make you lawful. Neither does it make you an American, and neither does it make you sovereign. You are a sovereign national in your country from which you came. So people are a little confused, and I'm not upset about that. Of course, you think just because the word so he can get rid of legal people because legal people are not lawful. And you know what? People are like, well, Europeans got to go. A lot of Europeans are leaving. Recently, a lot of Europeans weren't coming as much as the Caribbean, South America, Central America, and Africans. More of them were coming because a lot of Europeans are already here. But the influx, the later, I don't know if it's Syrians are considered Europeans, and I don't think so. But a lot of the latter Europeans that came, they're being sent back home, and the embassies in Europe are being closed. We're closing. The United States is closing embassies in the Middle East, Asia, Africa, and Europe. But a lot of people are asking me, so what about the Europeans and what about the Caucasians? You know what? One thing about Donald Trump, he'll start with one and he'll go all the way down until he get the ones who thought they were safe. I don't know what he's going to do about people of European descent. That's not my battle. It's really not my concern. Only thing I'm concerned about is my land and having it returned back to me and mine and my business of claiming what is rightful for my family. I don't need nobody to claim no land for me. I don't need nobody to say, come over here. Everybody come over here. No, I don't need that. I'm a grown woman. I know how to research. And so does my family. And so do you all. So I don't know who he's getting rid of or how many people. I just know he's getting rid of people. Good evening, Dr. Key. Good evening to you too, dear. Some of them have been rude, crude, and no basic manners. I know a lot of people come over here, and it's interesting how rude they've been. Now they want to tether themselves to Black Americans or or Indigenous Americans, and now they're tapping on the shoulders of the NAACP and all these other nonprofit organizations and the churches and saying we're a minority. But the Save America Act was very telling. President Donald Trump said that the Save America Act needed to be passed, and that act just says that citizens have to prove they're a United States citizen in order to vote. They have to put forth some ID, like something, a passport, state ID, driver, some kind of ID, birth certificate to prove that they're a United States citizen. Where they're getting pushback, the Trump administration is, and they're saying, the other side is saying, we don't want to force people to show that they're American citizen, United States citizen, because if we do that, then other minorities like Black folks will have a problem producing documentation in order to vote. What you trying to say? That we're absent-minded? The indigenous people don't have any type of proof that we're on these lands? We don't have any identification? Why are they always trying to lump everybody in with us? That's what they've been doing. All of a sudden, they're a minority. All of a sudden, they need help from these organizations. All of a sudden, they want everybody to march with them and fight for them. And you know what? We've done it all. We fought for them. We've spoken for them. We've voted against our best interests for everybody else. But the time is up. The time is up. Hit the like button, family. Ooh, it will expose them. They did come in with an entitlement spirit. Mm-hmm. Now, Monica said, that's why I go back home. I heard that. No other country had people bombarding their borders like we do. That's true. A lot of people don't understand that legal is not lawful. They don't. Legal is a quasi. Legal means not real. Come through here. Wish I could see your name. Come through here. Say that. Thank you for hitting the like button. I'm just reading some of your comments. Yeah, we are hearing about martial law, emergency broadcast system announcement coming. I don't know if they're going to shut down the internet or phones. I hope they don't go through all that. But who knows what's going to happen on the 4th of July? Independence. The 250th anniversary year of the Declaration of Independence. Something could happen. You said that's why even the branches of government, Congress, Supreme Court, etc., since they are powerless, we should know that all of this is just a show. Come on. We do have to end birthright citizenship. I agree. Right. The reason why Native Americans are called Native Americans is because they're not indigenous. Native born is not natural born. Two different things. People are saying the Native Americans have a right to be here. The only right they don't have a right to be here. They can have a privilege to be here. And who's going to grant that? Who's going to for the one that said Native rights Native goodbye? My card said goodbye. For the people that said Native Americans have a right to be here, who affords rights? Who's going to give them that right? The United States government, the one that no longer exists, that's defunct and insolvent, that doesn't have any money, that one, or the republic that's run by the indigenous people now. And just because you don't know it don't mean it's not so. So the republic that's run now by the indigenous people who didn't invite all these people here, likely have more of a right to say who can stay and who can't than the fake folk government, because the government affords privileges. And a lot of the Native Americans that came here have a homeland. Why does everybody want to come here and lay stake to this homeland, to this of the indigenous Moors? Why are some people so concerned and fascinated by America? Maybe it's because everything started here. This is the Pangea, the earthquake happened and everything split apart. Even the ancient maps show that all the other countries that you hear about today started here in America. Even the Garden of Eden is here. It's actually in Florida. Maybe that's the reason why they're so fascinated with America, but they have a homeland. Why does everybody want to have a right to stay here? You have a right to live where you came from. But I tell you what, when a republic is restored, then we'll determine who has rights and who doesn't. And I think that's only fair. Just like if I go to China, the Chinese government, the Fords, and the Chinese people, the Republic of China decides what should happen. I don't get to go over in China, wave my flag, stake my little totem pole or my flag, throw up my fist, have a baby on their land, the baby becomes Chinese. That is, now it sounds crazy. Just because I have a baby in China, my baby's automatically Chinese. But people think they can come here and do the same thing. But when we speak up, there's something wrong with what we're saying. It's not that people really think that. It's just that people been miseducated. So President Trump will most likely work right around this birthright citizenship, anti-birthright citizenship, what was it? Birthright citizenship ruling. The Supreme Court ruled against Donald Trump. He's going to work around that. And he'll do it according to their rules legally. And if not lawfully, he can shut this whole country down. Because the people that are in power are not supposed to be there. He can shut the whole country down. We're already under martial law. We already have National Guards on the land, right? We know that. So he can shut it down. He can have an emergency broadcast system announcement. And he can use his executive authority to send everybody out of here. And it's already happening. It's just happening little by little. And then all at once. And then all these people that's going back home thinking they're going to be able to run to the embassies to seek some type of asylum or some type of help are going to be shocked and surprised because the embassies are shutting down. But the government is broke, insolvent, doesn't have any money, and can't afford to keep people here. And you know what? If they won't go home, he'll starve them out. Jobs are closing. If you want a bank account here in America, you have to prove that you're a United States citizen. Imagine what's going to happen when you have to go beyond that and prove that you're American by blood. That's really going to shake up a lot of people. Right now, we're saying you got to prove you're a citizen. At some point, you're going to have to prove that you're American, not a citizen. Just wait. Because we might be moving from maritime and admiralty law to constitutional law, but then we're going to move to tribal law, and that's when the indigenous people's law and is going to be what supersedes everything else. And of course, we created the republic, but I mean tribal law. Tribally, your families, your tribes will be going by what you and your bloodline determined they should be going by. And no government going to be able to tell you you can't fish in your own pond, your own land. You can't marry whomever you please without getting a marriage license, because the government is going to cease to exist. I see what you're saying. Thank you so much for all of you being here listening to me this evening. You're adopted in mixed race. How much indigenous blood does one have to have? Remember the 1 drop rule? Remember that? 1 drop of indigenous blood is what I'm hearing. America's going to make it hard for people to learn American history. Thank you for saying that. Indigenous ones, know your bloodline, the mother's line. Yes, you got to know your mother's line. You need to know your bloodline. And it's interesting that these people are using the 14th Amendment to justify birthright citizenship. The 14th Amendment to the Constitution. We need to first of all, is it lawful or was it legal? Okay, because it could have been legally added to the Constitution, but was it lawfully? Okay, number one. Number two, the 14th Amendment was drafted at the end of the Civil War for the children of African American slaves. Now, whether we should have used it or not, that's not the point. The point is that was what it was put in place for, the children of African American slaves, not for foreign nationals of other lands. The attorneys use that, the immigrants use that, the United States government allowed attorneys to use the 14th Amendment that wasn't created for immigrants to justify them having babies here and their children becoming citizens just because they were born on the lands. But that's not what it was determined, what the 14th Amendment was designed for, immigrants. Somebody say you got out of that air, Doc. I did get out of the air. I'm hot now. We need to go back to oral tradition. And we got to end 14th Amendment citizenship for this corrupt government. I agree. Did he use that? Wow. So, I think that's it. It's Tuesday night. Tomorrow's Wednesday, July 1st. We only have a few more days to Independence Day. And it was important that, what was it, Charles came over here. I heard they didn't even call him King Charles. It was important for him to come here during his 250th anniversary year of the Declaration of Independence, because this was a ritual for him to speak to President Trump the beginning of this year. And this ritual just indicates that, it's showing us that the United States is now completely free from the British Crown. And then he was passing authority down to Trump. So we could see something very important happen in July, starting tomorrow. Definitely by the 4th. You subscribe, thank you. It was a humiliation ritual. Woo, that Charles wasn't called King Charles. Oh, thank you. Ancestral. What's that? I can't see what you're saying. No, it's that Lance. You said, Dr. Kia, I really love you and what you are doing. Peace and grace upon you. Thank you so much. The actions take force and not to prove the tribal ancient laws in the great American. Okay. I agree. So here we are. The 4th of July is coming up. People are going to be celebrating. I'm just wondering what's going to happen. I keep hearing we could have some type of emergency broadcast system announcement after that. But you got a lot of things happen. You have the Save America Act that passed in the House, but the Senate was holding it up. I'm hearing that it's secretively passed, but the Supreme Court, the mainstream media is not talking about it. So, and that Save America Act says that everybody has to prove with identification that they're a United States citizen in order to vote. and the immigrants that are not here legally, and some of these nonprofit organizations that are working to support them, including the NAACP, is pushing back and saying they're going to have all type of rallies and protests if that act passes. And if they do have rallies and protests, then that's when the National Guard can really take control and get order out of chaos. So you got the Save America Act, you got the Iranian United States conflict going on. You got this birthright citizenship issue being discussed right now because the Supreme Court of the United States ruled against Trump. And I think that's just a show. I don't think the Supreme Court really ruled against Trump. I think it's a show. And I think that Trump allowed that to happen just to show, maybe to highlight some corruption. But I think it's because he got a play that he's about to, he got something that he's about to pull out of his hat. That's what I really think in all my heart of hearts. I think President Trump definitely can trump that decision. Some kind of way it's going to happen where they rule against birthright citizenship. He might even be allowing this to happen just to give them a victory. Because that's what you do. You make people think you're dumb. You make people think you're not smart. You court scandals. You allow people to feel good about themselves. And you let them get a few victories. And then, bam, you pull out that spade. When we used to play spades, the deuce, the number 2, used to trump the king. Ain't that something? But most people would play it where the king and the ace, those were whichever spade it was, a spade. Those are the trump cards. He going to pull out a spade. He going to pull out a trump card. We have to end birthright citizenship because it's too many people here that are claiming to be citizens that think they're Americans and think that they have rights when they don't. They have privileges. And just because they have these privileges, they think that they can comfortably take over the resources and the lands. But we've awakened, and we know that the government was a group of bloodline families. Some of them were Nephilim or fallen angels or extraterrestrials, whatever you want to call them. And then some of them were in human flesh, or in meat suits, as some people will call it. Some of them were their human hybrids, and some of them were just corrupt individuals who love money and power. But who cares if you have fiat dollars when fiat is now being phased out? And all these people that did blood right sacrifices and rituals and humiliation rituals and unaliving their family members for some status and some fiat dollars now looking silly and foolish because fiat dollars are being phased out. And people making money online, making way more than some of the actors and actresses. How about that? And people are operating benevolently without sacrifices, making sacrifices and accumulating real wealth like silver and gold and copper and foreign currencies, and storing it and just waiting for the proper time for everything to mature. And then they will be multi-millionaires and multi-billionaires. Now, all these people that was doing these rituals and unaliving their own family members and letting people do all type of things to them just so they can sell out their own people or sell out other Americans, they're looking really foolish now, because now, as President Trump said the other day, he's coming after them. He said, if you seek to cheat or harm Americans, we will find you. We'll hunt you down. We'll seize your assets, and we'll prosecute you to the fullest extent of the law. And that, my friends, is exactly what is happening, whether we see it with our eyes or not. We're having military tribunals right now. We're having assets that are being frozen right now. We're having mass arrests occurring right now. We have raids at the ports, at the airports. We're having raids at the water ports. We have bridges being shut down. And then those raids, they're uncovering how many, many illegal and legal immigrants were here laundering money, trafficking drugs, trafficking children, running prostitution rings, and doing all this in their fake shell companies with their H-1B visas, work visas, F-1 student visas, and other visas, because many of them were spies or cartel. And the ones that weren't are now coming out and ratting on the cartel because they were forced to pay off the cartel that allowed them to come into these lands. But when it all falls down, people gonna wake up. It's over. People can kick, they can scream, they can march, they can cry. We used to say, man, we were kind of bad. We used to say, you can roll your eyes, you can stomp your feet, but this black nigga you sure can't beat. Now I don't like the N word. I don't say it, but this how we was something else when I was a kid. We got beat too for saying that. You know, wasn't supposed to use the N word. We just heard other people say it. But you can roll your eyes, you can stomp your feet, but these indigenous Americans, you sure can't beat. Illegals are not United States citizens. I appreciate you more. Yes, and they were here stealing our organs as well. Thank you so much. Supreme Court, stop it. Watch what I tell you. Mr. T is still playing chess while they are playing tonk. Come on, Sister Janine. Hi, Sister Janine. It's good to see you. Welcome. So, family, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for listening and adding to the conversation. That show that we did last night with Mama Dria, from my Instagram, my Facebook accounts, LinkedIn, Rumble, I took those down. The one that's on YouTube, I made it private. It's only in the membership group now until I edit it, because we have to edit out the part where the baby came and sat on her lap. We have to edit that out because it's a high profile case. So if you wonder what happened with the interview that I did with Mama Dria in this high profile case that, you know, we spoke about earlier, it's in the membership group. You can join a private membership group and see it, but that's the only place until I edit that part out. She told me we have to edit that part out because of the case that it is. The baby cannot be in pictures. So we want to honor the request. And if you want to learn more about finances and silver, gold, copper, and foreign currencies, join our private membership group. Private members, we're going to have a meeting tomorrow because I didn't do it this weekend, so I need to do it tomorrow. I was going to say, is tomorrow Wednesday? Yes. So I'll give you a report on what's going on in the geopolitical world. I give you a report on what's going on with the gold and silver. And also, if anybody has any questions about credit or credit repair, then I'm avail myself to share any of those tips and secrets with you. We know credit is going to be done away with, but some people need to use their credit right now. And I was a credit repair specialist. I don't offer the service anymore, but I will give any tips that I can and help assistance along with financial assistance and discussions about what's happening with the foreign currencies being revalued. We'll do that tomorrow. I'll try to do it between 10 and around 10 or 11 in the morning. But if not, it'll definitely be sometime tomorrow. And for those of you that don't have gold or silver, but you're interested in it, we're going to talk about that in a private membership group. All you have to do is hit the join button and follow the prompts and you'll be in it. But do know that gold and silver have dipped drastically. I mean, tremendously. Silver had gone all the way up to $130 per ounce earlier this year. And then it dropped down to $58, $57, $58. Today it went to $60. But that's still a big gap between $60 and $130 per ounce. Gold had reached all the way up to $5,300 an ounce, and now it's like $4,100. So it had dropped, but it's now slowly inching up. You can go to your local coin shop to get silver or gold if you desire, or you can contact my affiliate, Miles Franklin Precious Metals Company. That number is 952 929-7006, or you can email info@milesfranklin.com and let the brokers know that Dr. Kia Pruitt referred you so you can get the best prices in the industry. So I think that's it. Trump means what he says. He says American meaning indigenous and or citizen meaning foreign. Woo! American means indigenous and citizen means foreign. He knows what he's talking about. That's the truth. All right, family, it's getting dark. My light went out. I could turn it back on, but I think that's a clue, a sign that it's time for me to go in. I love you all so much. Anybody have any questions that you wanted to ask or desire? I think we should opt out of the 14th Amendment citizenship. Yes, so they can't claim jurisdiction over people classified as black. I agree. We should opt out. Because that, even though they created that for us, we were never supposed to be citizens because we are the indigenous people. This is the land of our ancestors. We have foreign invaders on our territories. And they brought other people to allow them to, replace us or try to replace. They try to replace us. Oh, thank you. So Julian says, gratitude, Doc. You are appreciated. Much love. I love you too. You're welcome, Sister Natasha. Thank you all that are saying thank you. That means more currencies around the world are revaluing, including the Iraqi dinar up against the US dollar. Come on through here. Thank you. I think we should opt out. So that's it, family. I love you all. I'll see the private members in the group, in our private membership group in the morning. And if you want to join us, please hit the like button. If you want to join a group, just hit the join button on any of my videos, or just at the somewhere on the channel you'll see join. And guess what? I just heard back from my publisher today. We are doing the final edits. I had economists, to look over my my manuscript, because I didn't just want a regular editor to look over it. And they were like, you need to cite all your sources that deal with money, that deal with investments, that deal with banking, anything. I received the message. Anything that deals with how policies are changing, they wanted me to actually have a source for it, like Bank of International Settlements, the BIS, or the World Council on, what is it, World Gold Council, something like that. So that's what I had to do. I had to provide sources to back up my claims and submit those to my editor, and tell them, okay, this when I said this, here's the source. Here's where the people can read the article or read the book, or this is the source that they can actually listen to support the claim that I gave. So I had to submit that to my editor, and they can add it in the footnotes, and I had them add a reference page. So if any of my audience that read the book wanted to say, where'd you get all this information from? Not only in the footnotes, but there's going to be a page devoted to all the sources. So I submitted that to my editor. They added all that. They sent that back to me, and now I have to give it one final look over. I wanted the book to come out before the July 4th, but I'm not sure if that's going to happen, because I really want this book to be right. I want it to make sense, and I want to have enough sources that back up my claims. And America is the land of the gods. These people will be removed because they do not have sovereignty. Thank you. Thank you. If you don't have sovereignty on these lands, you will be removed. You will go home. But you'll return to the place that you have sovereignty. I think that's beautiful. I'm happy that people will be able to use everything they learn here to help build up their land. I don't know why more people aren't happy that they'll be able to use, their engineering degrees and medical degrees and knowledge and resources, all the money that they made and accumulated while they were here, they can use it to build up their countries. I think that's a wonderful opportunity. Only difference between Black Americans and Afro Caribbean is where their enslaved ancestors were dropped off. I hear you. Come on. Check out The Oval by Tyler Perry. I swear it's what's happening now. Okay. Right. As long as it's not a bunch of some of these movies or shows and all that. Sometimes they have just so much propaganda in it, or I don't know, mind altering or mind control and witchcraft slid in their stuff, and homosexuality and just stuff that a lifestyle that I don't live. I don't want to see a lot of it. Or adultery, a whole bunch of fornication, everybody sleeping with everybody. I don't have time to live at my base chakra, you know. But I will watch movies. It's just if somebody can say this is a good movie, you'll get something. You'll glean, like you're saying, you'll glean something from it. It's educational. It's informational. You'll be able to use this to better your life. That kind of stuff I might watch. But movies bore me. Shows bore me. Now if it's a documentary, I like that. But a lot of these things, if it's not going to improve my life, or the trajectory of my lineage, it's not as enjoyable to me as it would be to others. But every now and then I want to watch something that will make me laugh. But I can't even watch comedies because they're often slipping in a bunch of cuss words, a bunch of sex, a bunch of stuff, you know. And I've often been told I'm very serious, but maybe I do need to watch some movies or something that will confirm what's going on in this world. But back to my book, I hope it's released in July. It is a book on family, wealth, and legacy, and how you can accumulate wealth for yourself, and how you can teach certain principles to your family through family governance meetings. And I had financial advisors to look at it, and I was told that it's a very unique book because it doesn't focus on just wealth. And it doesn't say, oh, I'm going to make you rich. It says more like, do these, if you consider doing certain things for your family after you've done the investigation, it could lead to wealth, and it will likely lead to massive wealth. So it's not just about it's not a get rich quick book. It's more of it's a history of money. It's a evolution of money. We talk about things that are going on geopolitically. We talk about how to accumulate assets, and more importantly, how to protect your assets. So I'm looking forward to my book coming out. I'm not sure how we're going to price it yet, but some of my private members will get that book for free. Others will pay a reduced price. Some of them will choose to pay, the full price. And when it comes out, I'll be sure to let you know. Good night, family. I love you so much. I'm extremely tired. I support you, gorgeous Dr. Kia. Hey, my internet went out for a minute. Thank you, family. I love you. Have a very good night. Rest well. And if you celebrate the 4th of July, happy 4th of July is coming up. As you go to sleep tonight, think about how amazing it's going to feel to be free. How amazing it will feel for us all to be able to operate in our sovereign capacity. Sovereign, sov, is over. Reign means rule and control. You're going to have reign, rule, and control of your own life. No more government to tell you you have to have a marriage license in order to enter into a covenant agreement. No more government to tell you you need a fishing license to in your own lakes and ponds. No more government to tell you you have to have a license in order to travel. They call it driving. We call it traveling. No more government to tell you you have to pay them tribute or taxes to enslave you. No more government to tell you have to work 40 hours a week, and they'll take out about 1/3 to 1/2 of it, not to pave the roads, but to line their pockets. No more. Imagine how amazing that's going to feel. Imagine how amazing it's going to feel when a universal high income will be announced, and you will see it, the evidence of it in your accounts. Because universal high income, that might be terminology that Elon Musk gave it, but what it is, it's us having access to our own birth certificate bonds and our own trusts. Universal high income is what a government or a republic for the people gives the people. Elon Musk and other economists say that AI is taking over industries and factories and all sectors of society. White collar jobs, blue collar jobs, labor jobs. AI is taking over, but that will lead to abundance, mass productivity, wealth, and luxury. To account for that, we will gain access to our trust. This is actually an agreement between many of the Galactic Federation entities that at a certain time, massive wealth will be injected into the global economy so that people can enjoy wealth and luxury as we were supposed to in the beginning. So universal high income is just terminology for the income that each of us will get into our accounts in the tens of thousands every month into a non-interest bearing account. Some people call that NESARA or JASARA. It will happen along with reduced work weeks. If anybody chooses to work, we're going to have AI. I've been saying that a lot when people are like, why would they make everybody rich? 10 years ago, I said, why would you be concerned about working? We're going to have robots to do the job. I knew that because I saw the Jetsons when I was a child growing up. And here we are 10 years later from the time when we first started talking about NESARA and JASARA. Universal high income is a part of NESARA and JASARA, National Economic Security and Reformation Act, or the Global Economic Security and Reformation Act for everybody else that's not in America, where we're going to get rid of government agencies. We're going to get rid of the IRS. We're going to get rid of taxes. We're already getting rid of income taxes in many states right now. We're not going to have a CBDC. It's already been ruled and determined by states that they're not going to allow that in their states. And we're going to have an allotment of money that each person would get in order to live off of in luxury. This is why President Trump years ago, like a decade ago, was talking about freedom cities and flying cars. He talked about the Jetsons a while ago, and that's why a movie of the Jetsons is supposed to be coming out this year, 2026. So imagine universal high income where you have so much money, so much wealth that you don't have to beg, borrow, or steal, and you don't have to be depressed. You're going to have joy. Some of you have joy already. Just when you think about it tonight, before you go to bed, I am wealthy, I'm sovereign, I'm free. And think about how amazing it's going to feel when the whole world is free, when we have global peace and everybody has tremendous wealth, and when trillions of dollars are injected into the global economy. Think about how amazing that's going to feel. And think about the humanitarian projects you will do. Write them down. Plan them out. Even if you don't know all the details, just plan out what you can and think about that as you go to sleep. And attach joyous emotions to it, because you're going to have joy. So just thinking about everybody being wealthy makes me happy. Think about how everybody's going to be healthy and we'll be able to live beyond anything we ever thought and imagined with the med beds and new advanced technology. Think about everybody living basically or essentially forever, or at least hundreds of years. That's exciting. Because when you think about it, you'll manifest it and it will come quickly. My name is Dr. Kia Pruitt. I hope I've said something to raise your vibrations and inspire you to create the most amazing, magnificent life that you desire and deserve. Freedom now. As we go off, put freedom now in the comment section, family. # freedom now. We command freedom. We command global peace, and we command wealth and abundance. Good night, Soul Tribe. Rest well, and I'll see you tomorrow. And especially the private membership group. I'll see you in the morning between 10 and 11. Peace.